everybody, it's Micheline from Micho Makes again. A very quick vlog that I thought it's been constantly tossing through my head, this little vlog, because it's a vlog about all the things that I've suddenly come across in the 21st century that weren't around, or at least I don't recall seeing them around 20 years ago when I stopped sewing. And they're little things, little gadgets, little things that I just am absolutely in awe of, because they have made sewing so much easier, so much better, so much more exciting. And I just thought I'd tell you all about the ones that I have. I tried to keep it down to a small amount, and these are the 10 items that I have found absolutely important to do sewing. I'm not going to include my sewing machine, but I will tell you a little bit about that. I used to have an all singing, all dancing computerized sewing machine 20 years ago. It could do everything. It could do embroidery, it could do, you name it, it could do it. It was called a Singer Futura. It was one of the first computerized sewing machines they had. Loved it to bits. But if truth be told, when I had to reinvest in a new sewing machine, I didn't use half of the functions. They're the kind of functions you might use if you have little kids, where you want to do flowers all around the bottom of the kiddie's dress, or if you want to put a little alphabet on, but I never used half of those. So when I bought my new 21st century sewing machine, which again, as I say, is not on my list, but it's a brother, I went for something that was very sensible, very practical. It still has a lot of stitches, but I can promise you I don't use half of them. And the most important ones are the zigzag, the straight stitch, the stretch stitch, the buttonhole, the button sewing. Although I always sew buttons on by hand, but I used to do that with the machine. And I think that's about all the main ones. But I may do a separate blog for that, just to let you have a little talk about that. Anyway, here are my 21st century top 10 sewing pieces of equipment that I have found absolutely such a great help in sewing. And you lot and you people, you younger folks who probably know nothing else, will just take it as given. But to the older generation who have already been through different things, they're absolutely fantastic. So here we go. This is what I want to point out to you. First on my list are the cutting boards. They're not cheap, but they are really good cutting boards. This has been standing up. It's a little bit warped with it standing up against the wall. I usually put them, I find another place to put this big one here, is under the settee. If you slide it under the settee, nobody knows that it's there except you. And sometimes I put the two on top of each other and you can slide it out. The lovely thing about this is you can cut, you can measure. On this particular one, it's the wrong way around, it's a Trimmett's cutting mat, 18 by 12. It says keep it out of direct sunlight, heat. Well, there are some marks on there because I have been sometimes ironing over it and I shouldn't do. But it's got great lines that you can use here. It's got the angles, so you can actually cut across certain lines. This side is in inches for we older ladies, and this side is in centimeters. Now I'm more into centimeters now because I did a course, and the lecturers kept saying you mustn't do inches, you must always do centimeters. So I'm so used to centimeters now, but it's quite handy for both generations, the older generation and the younger ones that do both. And it also gives you an insight of what the difference is between an inch and a centimeter. So that's that there. And then there's the bigger one. I've invested in a fairly big one. This table is an IKEA. I've got a couple of IKEA tables sat together. One has a drop leaf, they both got drop leaves on each end, and this one, it's only one-sided. All the pattern, the marking is on one side, but even then I find it very, very useful. I don't use, to be fair, I don't use half of these measurements, except when I'm wanting to measure along these. But most of the time I just find it handy for cutting. So what do you use with the cutting mat? Well, the cutting mat goes, what I then bought is the next 21st century gadget that I came across is this. I've got several of these, but this is the one I use the most. It's see-through-ish. It's got the inch markings on, and it's got, no, sorry, centimetre, that's it. It's see-through, QR 6x24. It's just a ruler with like a protractor type measurements, giving you the angle should you need them. A lot of people use them for quilting, but because it's see-through, I find it so easy for measuring things and getting straight lines. Now, I do like working with it, and to go with that, so that's item number 2. You can get different colours, different sizes, big ones, little ones, and as I say, they're more for quilting, but I do like it because you could use it for all sorts of things. It's good for cutting strips. You measure it against these squares and make sure you've got straight edges and so on. Number 3, best thing since sliced bread, 21st century gadgets, are cutting blades, rotary cutters. Not always good. I often still use my scissors, but when you're wanting to cut straight line strips, I just find this really, really good. Now this one, I've run out of a blade. I've got some blades somewhere, but I've got to find which drawer I put them into. The blade was getting a bit worn and needed replacing, so that one is the bigger one. That's the one I would normally use, but I've just invested in a little one for the purpose of bra making, which I haven't actually ended up using, but I do find that's very handy as well. A little one, you pull the gadget down and then you cut along things. So I'll show you what it does. I know most of you will be saying, oh, I know all about this, you know, why is she telling me this? But I just think there may be somebody out there one of us older ladies who doesn't know about this, who may find it's very, very practical. So say I've got a piece of fabric there and I want to cut a straight edge. I get my see-through ruler and place it over the line, and I'm actually matching it with that line there and that line there. I get my little blade, I run it along there, take that away, and look at that, I've got a perfect straight line there. And that's handy if you do quilting. I don't do quilting, but I do find it handy for making sure you have clear, sharp edges on certain things that I make. So that's item number 3. These ones are, this is just says rotary cutter. I bought it from our local shop called Boys, and this one is an Alpha. I think Alpha is obviously the better make. Alpha rotary cutter. You can get these from any sewing shops. Quite a lot of them often sell them. So that's item number 3. Item number 4 is this. Now, up until 21st century, I used an ironing board, and then I happened to be to see a lot of people using this. So I thought, well, not exactly this thing, but I've made it myself. I thought, right, use some spare fabric, white on one side, and just whatever spare fabric I had. Actually, I think that's curtain lining or curtain fabric, and this is just some cheap fabric I got that I didn't like. I don't know why I bought it, but I got it and I didn't like it, and I thought, right, well, or I may have bought it and liked it at the time, but then I probably thought, ugh, don't go for it. I don't fancy it being made into anything. So I've made a little ironing board, and inside is a piece of cardboard with wadding wrapped over, and I've kind of made a sort of pillowcase cover for it. I made it at the start of the year. It's now December, and I still have pins here because I haven't got round to sewing that up, and I really ought to do that. For those of you who have cats, my son's cat seems to like to sit on it, so I tend to put the cat on that side and iron on that side so I don't get covered in hairs. If I happen to leave it lying around, she sits on that side. Anyway, that's item number 4. Item number 5 is this. I've been through the pin cushions on your wrists. I've been through the pin cushions, the lovely pin cushions you make. I've been through the the doggy pincushion stage, you know, make a pincushion in the shape of a dog. I've done all that. There's my dog. It's actually, I got this free with a t-shirt that we bought for the husband, but that's the dog. I've been through all that, and I am absolutely, it took my breath away when I got this, because I actually started off with this, and this is something I bought from eBay. It was a metal fishing weight that I bought from eBay. I've just covered in a little bit of Fablon there. It's a very heavy one and very strong. And what I love about it is, when I think of the number of years I used to spend dropping pins and things on the floor and having to go on my hands and knees and pick them up. And look at this, watch this. I've taken a handful of pins there, right? Watch this. They all land there. I think that's marvellous. I just can't get over this. This is the best thing since sliced bread, this is. Or was either one the best things? They're both things that best things. And what's even better is you drop them on the floor, you go like that, and you pick it up. I feel like one of those market traders trying to sell it to you. But this, I just think it's absolutely fantastic. And when you're bored, you spend all your time lining all your pins up the right way to make sure that they're all pointing in the same direction. But I mean, I have over the years experienced dropping pins on the floor into the carpet, and then my son screaming because he's had a pin in his heel. And I just think that's absolutely wonderful. The other one I got was this one. This is a one that you buy. This is a ready-made bought one by Prim. And same thing, not as strong, but serves the same purpose. Serves the same purpose. So what I do is, I often work in two different rooms. I often work in the sitting room to watch TV, or I work in the sewing room. So I have one for one room and one for the other. Generally that's the most important one, that I like to have that for most of my pins. That's when I take it to the sewing machine and I'm just taking pins off whatever it is I'm sewing. So that's the next item. I actually think I've probably got more than 10. Now then, this one, whoa, this is fantastic. Let me introduce you to this thing, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't seen them before. These are little washing line clips, I would call them. Absolutely tiny washing line clips. I don't know if you can I focus it into there? Will it focus? Come on, focus. I'll do it like that, look. I'll go a bit closer. These are little clips, and they're not all different colours. Very nice because they're assorted colours, just like a washing line or like a washing, you know, clothesline clip. These are fantastic if you're doing bag making, if you're doing coat making, you've got thick fabric and you can't get the pin through the fabric. This will hold the edge of the fabric. So say for example, something like that where you want to put you've got a big wedge of fabric that you've got to sew. Let's see if I can get that for where you've got to sew down there, very thick fabric. You can put clips on it like that and hold it together like that. I think they're really fantastic. They weren't very expensive, and so that is another great gadget that they've invented, or that somebody's thought of. And another thing, there you go, same as the pins. When you've had enough of them or you're finished with them, look at this, watch this. Whoa, they just land on there. Isn't that fantastic? Whoop, there. So that's the next one. Now then, this next 21st century gadget is, it's been around. In our day we use stones, but oops, somebody came up with a great idea. I've kind of modified mine, and I've done these. I've made those, and these are little weights. We've made them. They're actually washers, like metal washers that you can buy from a DIY shop with a big hole in the middle. I've actually made a little scene on the front, and on the other side I've put bays on, and complete with cat hairs yet again. But they are great. They're little weights that you can put onto your pattern when you're setting your pattern out, They save you the fuss of pinning the pattern to the fabric. So that is, I've lost one. I don't know where it's gone to. It must be somewhere around. But I just thought they were fantastic. And a little sewing pattern on the front. I don't know if you can see that very. A pair of pointy pliers. Now I used to do silversmithing. I haven't done much lately, and I really ought to get my finger back into making jewellery. But just so you know, I used to make jewellery like that sort of ring. That's something I made, a silver jewellery like that. And so it's these are really handy for pulling when you. One of the worst jobs that you can have in sewing is unpicking. So I use my stitch unpicker to loosen the thread, and then I grab a hold of the thread with this and I pull it out. It's much easier than using your fingers. I also find this handy for other things, for helping to manipulate things. This always sits on the side of my machine somewhere in my little toolbox, and I find it very handy. Next gadget is my homemade soup carton storage box for scissors and other pieces of equipment. We didn't have 21st century soup cartons like this, and so I was in my element when I suddenly thought, right, what can I do with that? And I've made a little soup carton for my scissors, for my snippers, for my rulers, for cutters, for a little pair of scissors, and there's one of those little pegs there holding a little embroidery pair of scissors. I've got 3 of these around the house. One here, in fact I've got 2 here because I've got so many pairs of scissors. I've got one, always have one near my seat in the sitting room when I'm watching TV, and there's another one always wanders between one place and t'other. So I also have a one in my workshop for using, I keep my tools for my other workshop type stuff. And I just find that that's a fantastic little gadget, well, not even a gadget, a little soup carton turned upside down, covered in fabric, and so practical. This is my phone, but it also applies to the computer. But within the phone, well, obviously the phone's a 21st century gadget, but within the phone I have 2 icons that I find very, very helpful. One of them is this one, YouTube, and the other one is Instagram. And I have found this is really, really handy. You get ideas, full of ideas, great ways to see how people do things. This tells, I mean, I've joined several things. You sometimes get little videos of things where they're trying to sell you. Oh, look at that! Look at that, ladies. We used to do something like that when I was a child. What does this do? Oh, it's making rope, but we used to do it we used to do it single-handedly. Do you remember, lady? We used to have a bobbin, an old wooden bobbin with 4 pegs, 4 nails in it. Wow, times have changed. But you make friends with people. You find out what people make. You have someone always puts on how they've made things, and you can make a lot of friends with this Instagram. I just love Instagram. You get to find about, for example, British Sewing Centre's having a pre-Christmas sale. Say you fancy the Vogue 8998, put that in. 28 people have put pictures up, so it gives you a chance to see what 28 people look like in that dress. There's the one there, very nice. Then that's the same lady wearing it, and then that's a shorter version. So you get some idea. This person's going to use those fabrics probably, and you get pictures of what people have done with that dress. So I just find that's very, very, very helpful just to get an idea of what it's going to look like in reality. Because it doesn't, the one thing that I've learned from years of experience is whilst that looks lovely there, it might not look so nice on my figure. So I think Instagram is really helpful to let you see what it looks, that same dress, what that dress, who's on a very, very thin model, what it's going to look like on someone with a sensible figure. And so I just think that that's really nice to look at, to get an idea of what the dresses look like. This is the same dress where a lady's used it as a pinafore dress, and I thought that was quite nice. So it gives you all sorts of great ideas. So Instagram, I just think, is absolutely the bee's knees. So I hope you've enjoyed that little trip around all my favourite 21st century gadgets. If you have some gadgets that I haven't mentioned that you actually think is very good and you would like us all to know about it, then please do a little vlog, tag me in so that I can see what you've what you're mentioning that maybe I might like to buy myself, or and tell us why you think it's good. You know, what do you like about it? What tool would you recommend to people? Oh, there's one that I've missed off. One that I've missed off. So I've actually gone to 12 actually. The one that I've missed off are these little coloured felt tip, coloured crayons, and also a felt tip pen for marking. We used to have French chalk or a French chalk powder, and these are great. The pencils, I think they did have pencils, but there wasn't as wide a choice in colours and in other things. And the other one that I've got, which is in my box over there, I haven't got it to hand, is the one that's like a felt tip pen that's washable or rubs off. I think the one I've got is the one that rubs off, so if you handle your material too much, you lose where the markings are. But those are godsends. They are great little gadgets. So they've improved on the markings on your material, and I really think they're great. So there you go. Hope you've enjoyed it, and hopefully I shall see you. I probably won't be able to do any more vlogs because it is now the 15th of December. And I probably won't be vlogging until after Christmas, until after the New Year. It's the 15th. We've been pretty hectic up until now at work, but in January it's going to be bliss because it's going to be very quiet for at least January and February. So the sewing machine will be, there'll be steam coming out of it hopefully, so you'll be able to see a lot of more things that I've made. Anyway, I wish you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year wherever you are. Don't get too drunk. Don't eat too much, because if you eat too much, you won't fit into the clothes you just made this year. So remember, my mother used to say, a moment on the lips, an inch on the hips. And I can tell you, I've had a few moments on the lips. Anyway, Happy New Year, Happy Christmas, and a Happy New Year, and I'll catch you next year. Bye.